The COVID-19 pandemic has affected all small businesses in the U.S. Virgin Islands, but there is help to move your business forward. The Virgin Islands Small Business Development Center is available to assist entrepreneurs and small businesses. The VISBDC is the territory's #1 resource for small businesses and is sustained by the University of the Virgin Islands and the U.S. Small Business Administration. The VISBDC is nationally accredited and provides one-on-one advising, business education training, and technical assistance at no cost. Attend workshops by experts from both the public and private sectors. From idea generation to exit strategies, the staff at the VISBDC are ready to assist you. So don't wait. Call, email, or visit them on the web at www.visbdc.org and Facebook, or simply download their mobile app on the Apple or Google Play Store. Just search VISBDC. Discover how they can help your business grow and succeed.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the U.S. Patent and Trademarks Office USVI webinar series hosted by yours truly, the VISBDC. The U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, USPTO for short, is here to teach, clarify, and connect you to the resources available to make this a reality for your USVI business. I am going to start off by introducing today's presenter. We have Mr. Christopher Prone. He is a primary examiner at the United States Patent and Trademark Office. Chris has more than 15 years of experience examining within the art of medical prosthetics and implants. During his time, Chris has trained junior examiners at the Patent Training Academy within his art unit. He now serves as an outreach detailee with the Eastern Regional Outreach Office, forwarding the mission of generating awareness of many resources available for inventors, organizations, and universities, particularly independent inventors and entrepreneurs. This includes persons from underrepresented populations. Chris draws from his professional experience to help these communities better understand, secure, and utilize IP. Chris has a degree in biosystems engineering from Michigan State University and a Juris Doctor degree from the Widener University, Delaware Law School. His passions outside of work are tasting new exotic foods, collecting watches, and spending time with his family. Just a friendly reminder to put your questions in the chat, and they will be addressed by the presenting team either directly in the chat or later during the question and answer segment. A copy of this presentation is available upon email request to info@visbdc.org. And we encourage you after this webinar to take a few minutes just to fill out the survey and let us know how we are doing. So without further ado, Chris, the floor is yours.
Hey, I appreciate the opportunity to talk to everybody today. So as we said before, I'm Christopher Prone from the United States Patent and Trademark Office. Here to guide you guys through some patent basics. We got a lot to cover, but hopefully I can get you guys some good general understanding. At the end, we'll link you to more resources that you could follow up, and we'll also have the slides and everything available for you. So today we're doing patent basics. Our formal notice is anytime you talk to a government agency that, this is just for informational purposes, not true legal advice. Please consult appropriate sources for legal authority and guidance on these matters. So let's just jump right into it. So a utility application is the main type of application you hear about. These are going to cover all your devices and things. There's also other types like a chemical or not chemical, but plant-based applications and things. But utility is going to be 9 out of 10 what we're talking about and what you're hearing about. And with utility applications, we have provisional and non-provisional. A provisional application, this is kind of just getting your foot in the door. It's not going to actually be examined by someone like me. It doesn't get published. It gives you 1 year to just get everything in order. It locks in your date because we're a first to file system. By filing your provisional, it's a little bit cheaper and just kind of gets you that 1 year timeline to formally get your non-provisional application in order. Now the non-provisional, that's the one that's going to be examined and reviewed by our office. So it has some more requirements. You need to have the claims. It needs to have a full written description. And it's going to need to meet all the other requirements we'll get into shortly. Now, non-provisional applications are published. 18 months from the earliest filing date, we're going to have that published, unless you request the non-publication when you file the non-provisional. The other thing is non-provisional applications can mature into a patent once everything's in order and we deem that it's patentable. So the easiest place to start is the title of your invention. With this, I feel like it's kind of skipped over. A lot of times people use just a generic placeholder, but it is good to have just a short little specific description, just a quick summary of it, not too generic, just kind of covering what you did, what you're fixing, what you're inventing, what your problem you're solving, something like that. Just kind of a quick, easy title for it. We don't want, like I said, the generic language, a system for this. Please, give a little bit more in there so that someone reading it or skimming through a bunch of these can kind of get an idea of what area you're protecting and going after. The specification, now this is just a term describing, it's all the wordage. It's the whole description of your invention. The key is it needs to explain how to make and use your invention. We need clear, full, concise, exact terms, and it needs to allow some, not just anyone to do it, but a person of ordinary skill in that technology to do it. So you don't have to kind of simplify it so that like a child could do it. Someone else that is like a colleague of yours or someone else in your area would be able to read this and understand how to make and use it. We also need one specific embodiment. You need to kind of disclose one configuration at least. And then we want to conclude that with at least one claim. We'll get into the claims a little later, but claims are what are enforceable of the patent. So that's the most important aspect. So the main sections of the specification are, like we mentioned, the title, keep it short and specific. The background, this is kind of lay the groundwork. This is what everyone else was doing. This is the state of the art currently prior to your novel leap, prior to your big breakthrough. Then we're going to give a brief summary of your invention. This is just a short little thing saying, hey, other people didn't know how to do this. We figured this out, or we had a breakthrough doing this, or, I thought up doing this. Now, then we're going to get a brief description of the drawings. This is usually a short little one phrase or sentence saying, figure 1 is the front view of this. Figure 2 is the top view. Figure 3 is exploded view. Then we get into the heart of it. That's the detailed description. Now, this is going to tell you everything. This is going to give you all the support for what we want to protect in your invention. This is all the claim subject matter needs to be able to go back and have support in this. So this is going to tell us this is all the materials I use. This is all the configurations. These are all the parts. These are how the parts interact. These are possible supplements. These are possible replacements, everything in there. The next section is going to be the claims. Now, these have to be on a separate sheet on their own because these are really important. They start, I claim, and you get into all that. The next section is the abstract. This is just a quick summary, 150 words or less. Keep it in one paragraph. This also needs to be on a sheet on its own. We don't want any legalese in there, like a means for doing this. Just keep it simple, short summary of that, pretty basic. So the background of the invention, you're gonna really outline the field. This is at a high level. This is in your field, the technical area. So you're gonna lay out the groundwork. Let's get all the facts out of the way right off the bat, saying, this is what everyone's doing. This is how everything works. You're gonna, if possible, you're gonna talk about related art, saying, hey, these people did this. They couldn't solve the problem, or they recognized this was a problem. They say they only made it this far. We did the next step. This is what we did past that. And then just identifying any of that prior art. If it's a patent, if it's a publication, if it's a trademark product, something like that, just identify what the other art is so we know the basis for your area. Then we get into the brief summary. Again, this is going to be at a high level. This is your technical, your colleagues and your equivalents. You're going to talk about what problems you're addressing or solving. What makes your invention special? Like what's that novel leap? What did you do to make that big leap to kind of bring us into that allowable subject matter? And then what does your invention do? How does it perform these activities? The brief description of the drawings again. This is just like a simple one sentencer. Just gonna say, like this is the front view, this is the expanded view. It's a quick thing so that when we have the drawings, when I'm examining, I like to have this on one my computer monitors and the drawings on the other, so I can go back and forth and see how, okay, this is top view, okay, this is bottom, okay, this is how these two go together. So when I'm reviewing and understanding and comparing, I got a quick reference guide for me. In the drawings, so these are required if a drawing is necessary to understand your invention. In mechanical area, we're always going to have a bunch of drawings. That's what I examine. The medical implants, we have tons of drawings. It's really easy just to understand it. It makes it a lot easier. Now they need to show every claimed feature. If you have a cap to your device, or if you have a battery that can attach to it, every feature that you want to claim and have protection for, those all need to be shown in the figures. We can't just say, oh, these are known, or this is an easy thing to visualize. It really needs to be shown there. And if possible, as many views as you can put in there, just to make it really easy to understand. There's two forms that we accept for drawings right now. The standard one is just black and white drawings. These are required for utility and design applications. You can submit colored drawings in design applications, but your standard utility and design applications, even if you submit it in color, we're going to scan it in and it's going to go black and white. So definitely go with the black and white drawings. I see all the time where it's a fancy computer image and they're referring to all these different colors and things. I can't see any of that. Once it comes to me, it's scanned in as black and white. So again, they're going to come in as black and white. So you need to make sure that the numbers and lines and everything are dark enough and solid enough so that we can see it. Remember, this is going to be faxed in or digitally scanned or moved around. So it can get lighter, it can get distorted a little bit. So the clearer, more heavily lined everything is at the beginning, the better. It'll hold up a lot better. We also look for reference numbers in there. These are just going to be like numbers or letters that point out with your reference lines. And then that's all going to be supported by the original disclosure. The specification is going to say, okay, reference line G is the top surface, or it's the inner cavity. Also, each figure needs to have a clear label. The most basic one that I always see is just FIG period 1, 2, or figure 1A, 1B. So real simple stuff like that, just following the standard format. We don't like to see description in the figures. It's best to avoid that. Anything where you're saying top view or any of that, that's all going to be in the written disclosure. The figures should just be the reference numbers, characters, and the label. So back to the abstract. Again, this is going to need to be on a separate sheet. This is just that quick summary, 150 words. We want it narrative form, one paragraph, and just point out, what you did that's new, what's simple in the technology. Some people copy the claim in there. It's a much better practice to kind of just rephrase it, keep it simple, more narrative, and less technical on that. So just want someone from the public that can look at this and say, oh, okay, yeah, this is what I'm interested, or no, this is going a different route. So the detailed description, again, this is one of the most important parts of the application, because we regularly run into times where people want to claim an aspect, or they learned over time during the prosecution of their applications that, oh, actually, no one else is doing this, or we kind of figured out that the material is more important than we thought before. Well, if that's not all disclosed in your original detailed description, we're not going to be able to put that into the claims because it's going to be considered new matter. We really just need to explain the whole process of making, the process of using your invention, and keep it clear and concise. Focus on the structures, processes, compositions, and refer back to the figures. You want to talk about the different parts. We're going to incorporate all those reference numbers and numerals, and just bring that all together. It's just a full summary. You want to be exhaustive in this, just everything covered so that you can claim and protect every aspect that you might need to. It needs to really have that clear support. And the key phrase that you're going to see is antecedent basis. Antecedent basis just means that it was disclosed, that it is supported previously. Now, there's lots of different approaches to drafting claims. One of the commonly recommended one is to draft the claims first. So that way you can use your claims as an outline to build out your specification. So you can really keep your technology and terminology consistent. Everything will be kind of just flowing from that. And then you can say, okay, well, in my claim one, I mentioned the material. So here's a list of material types. And then here's specific materials under that, like metals or plastics. And then under metals, you could say titanium or cobalt and things like that. So it's all about building that out so that later you could claim other components or more specific aspects. For example, like if your invention was related to a motorcycle, if in the specification you just said a bike, that might not necessarily just mean a motorcycle. That could mean a bicycle, a motorcycle, or quite a bit of other things. So that's why in the specification, we really need to hash all this out. Tell us what terminology means, what the scope of it is, what are equivalents and things like that. So it's really good to use the claims as a checklist to make sure the specification is supported. Here's some do's for us. We're going to start off and just say, you really just need to make everything clear. It needs to enable someone skilled in the art to make and use it. And this is without undue experimentation. If we kind of just hint at things and someone's going to have to do a lot of trial and errors, that's outside the scope of what we do. If you're going to get a patent and get that 20 years of protection, you need to have that specific stuff. We can't leave too much of it out of it. When referencing the drawings, be sure that the reference numeral is used for only one part. I commonly see that where sometimes we just reuse character B or number 7 multiple times. So that's something we want to go through with our checklist and have all those hashed out. Sometimes I actually see people put a chart in their specification that'll say reference number on the left and the specific name of the part on the right. As an examiner, that's a really helpful thing for me. It keeps everything clear. And as someone drafting it, it's a great base so you know you have everything disclosed. At least one specific embodiment needs to be disclosed. We see this a lot in medical stuff because basically, like, you'll hear a heart valve and they'll be like, oh, the first heart valve has 2 valves on it, or the third option of it has only 1, and this one's split or a full, and all these things. So we need at least one specific embodiment. A lot of times there's tons of different embodiments disclosed. So, but the key is there needs to be one configuration specifically outlined. If we don't have at least that, we couldn't enable someone to make and use it. We also need the brief description. This is a complete reference. A good example for that is figures labeled 1A through C. Those are all going to need to be separately identified. Figure 1A is the top view. Figure 1B is the side view. 1C is exploded. You need to separate all those out. I know sometimes it's a little more convenient or seems redundant when you lay them all out that way, but we're very technical. We want everything as laid out and clear as possible, just so there's no confusion. Again, the antecedent basis, all those terms that we have in the claims need to be supported. They need to be described in the spec. And like we said before, just focus on the technical features, like everything about your invention. That's everything from materials to forces to how things react, how they can be driven, power, all kinds of things like that. I'll just get that in there to help support it. Okay, so now what not to do. It's really encouraged we don't use trademarks. We don't want to say Velcro in the title to describe this structure. We need to go back and use the generic terms like Velcro is easily replaced with hook and loop fastener. Don't use the actual marks or logos for your brand if you want to register that. The background of the invention doesn't need to state how you conceived it. We're not looking for you saying, you know, over coffee we thought of this, or I ran the microwave next to this and realized it heated this up, or none of those background stories are really needed. We can keep it straight to the technical stuff. Avoid making claims of possible future success. I've seen this problem many times where people say, you know, in theory, we could probably use this to do this later. That means you haven't done it and we're not ready to do it yet. So we want to definitely avoid any of those kind of claims or disclosures. Don't include a detailed discussion of the figures or refer to the reference characters in the brief description. That we're keeping that short and sweet. The detailed description is going to get that. We want to keep the brief description brief. The other thing is, give it another look. Proofread everything. Look for grammatical errors. Look for notes that you had in there. I commonly see people saying, refer back to this, or question marks on different things. That you can see was when someone was writing it up, they wanted to add more in there. But the problem is, once you make that disclosure, if that's still in there, we can't add in your thoughts. Even if we know clearly that's what you intended to do, if we don't have that at that time of disclosure, we can't do anything with it. Okay, so claims, these are the most important thing. This is what really is enforceable. This is what you're protecting. This is the key, the heart of everything. Remember, if it's in the claim, it's got to be in the specification. They draw the boundaries of your invention, but it can only be drawn as wide and broad as the specification supports. The terms and phrases in the claims need to be clearly supported. Again, that's the antecedent basis phrase, and it needs to be from the original specification. We can't add extra description throughout prosecution. It needs to be that original disclosure, because everything's based on that first date, because that's when we're giving you enforceability from. So everything needs to be supported. It all needs to be tied together. So the claims, again, are on a separate sheet of paper. They're 1.5 or double spaced. They need to each be a single sentence. Like, you know, that we got a capital letter at the beginning, period at the end. They are all going to tie together. So your independent claims are basically like a starter claim. That's going to say, you know, I claim a bicycle comprising wheels and this and this. Your dependent claims are going to build off of that and further define it. So with standard filing, you get 3 independent claims and 20 total claims before you're going to have to pay some extra fees. They need to be numbered consecutively in ascending order, and original numbering is going to be preserved. So what we mean by that is sometimes we cancel claims, sometimes we add claims. So if we start off with claims 1, 2, 3, and we realize that we need to cancel claim 3 because there were some major problems with it, and you want to add a new claim, that new claim is going to be claim 4. So we would go 1, 2, 4. And this is going to happen throughout prosecution until your application is deemed allowable. Then we'll fix all the numbering to make it nice and pretty. So now the law requirements. So we need, like we said, at least one claim, particularly pointing out and distinctly defining the invention. If we don't have that, you don't have anything to protect. The claims got to be in there because that's what the courts enforce. The claim can be written in independent or dependent form. The dependent one, like I said earlier, is going to refer back to the independent claim. It's going to limit it further. So if the independent claim says that you have a metal device, the dependent claim could say, wherein the metal of claim 1 is titanium, or wherein the metal of claim 1 has memory characteristics. So you're further defining it. You cannot broaden it, because if you broaden it, then we're going to get into contradictions and confusions, and we're going to have issues with that. So the dependent claim, remember, incorporates all of the references of the independent claim. So when you read the dependent claim, you're essentially reading every claim that it depends from as well as that big long clause. So thinking about how to define your claims, the big thing you want to remember is it's a balance. You can't be too specific, because if your claims are too specific, someone could easily define a workaround and your patent's not going to be enforceable. And then if your claims are too general, you're never going to get it to mature into a patent. So drafting it's really an art form. It's really this balance of trying to find that middle ground where you're going to really define your invention, but also a little bit broader than your invention to kind of carve yourself out a niche area in the field. So for example, here's a broad claim. We're just talking about a car here. And so we see that their inventions here looks like the convertible bug. So basically they have a vehicle comprising a frame, the first and second wheels, first and second, they're aligned. We talk about the seats, the top, but the thing is, there's a lot here, but it's also really broad. And when you look at how broad it is, you can see that a super old wagon here from the pioneer days is going to read on that. And so this is showing you how you're not going to get a patent because you're too broad. So you're going to have to come in and we're going to have to be a lot more specific. So all the additions here are underlined. And that's something you're also going to see during prosecution is when you make changes to your claims, you're going to want to underline the changes and strike through anything that you're deleting. So in this case, we added a motor, we made the frame yellow, they talk about the hinges, they talk about glass, and all this is going to get us around that wagon. Now, we also got to remember that it's a balance. So all of these limitations on their own would have gotten past the Pioneer wagon. So what they did here was almost too specific. In this case, if there was no other vehicles or nothing else that we knew of, they would have gone well beyond it, and someone could have just used one or two of these components and found an easy workaround. So again, it's a good balance of being as specific as you have to. You don't want to be too broad, but you also don't want to come in and put absolutely everything in there so that someone can just kind of work around your invention. Now, before we draft our claims, there's a bunch of questions that we have here that kind of helps you think of all the aspects and everything you want to get in there. I mean, first is the easy one. What is your invention? What's novel, or what's the inventive aspect of it? Is it a tangible thing or a product? Or is this a method of using a product? Sometimes you can go after a new method of using an old product. If no one else had been using that, or people thought that it wouldn't work to do that, that's something you can seek to patent and get protection on your new method of using it. Products, they need to be described in the claims as components or pieces that make up the invention. We also want to talk about how they're interrelated. You're allowed to claim multiple inventions. You could have a composition. Another one would be for the method. However, you cannot have both a method and the invention in the same claim. They need to be separate. So if you're claiming the method itself, that's claim one. If you're claiming the device itself, that would have to be claim two. Do you have more than one invention? If so, like I said, separate those out. Are there multiple versions of each one? If so, let's lay that all out. So, you know, species one is going to talk about this first configuration, then you can have a second configuration. We really want to think strategically about this. Like we said, we want the broadest but a valid claim. You really want to know about your goals. Like, are you trying to protect the device itself? Is the device kind of common and you want to protect the method that you're using it? You want to look at the claim. The scope could protect multiple inventions within the one patent application. Keep in mind the original disclosure stays the same, and elections are going to be maintained throughout prosecution. What we mean by that is if you disclose like 10 different configurations, and you pick to just patently describe the first configuration, once you establish that pick, that selection, you're not going to be able to say, oh, you had some good art on this, I'm going to switch to my other configuration. Once we're in that, we're in that. So what you could do after that is file a divisional application or a continuation, which would be additional applications to go after all your other embodiments. Again, when you're drafting this, the other thing you got to keep in mind is that this is a balance of speed and quality. So if we're too broad right off the bat, as an examiner, I'm going to have a hard time trying to do a thorough search and give you the most feedback that I can, because it's so broad. Sometimes I run into that in my reviewing, where someone will be wanting to claim a specific bone implant, but they don't even say that it's for bone. They don't say what part of the body it goes in. So then I'm looking at every type of implant possible that might read on their claim. So, and by doing that, we're just delaying and making the process to go on and on. So the more specific you are up front, the better we can both approach this and get the process moving faster. The other thing is we want to always, finances are going to come into it. So the basic filing, you're going to get 3 independent claims max. You can file more, but after that, you're going to get excessive charges are going to start adding on. You got also 20 initial claims are included with your filing, but again, you're going to have more fees and the fees can adjust over time. So this is just the baseline for currently. And also that these are micro entity fees. So that's that's a status that you can obtain by talking about how many employees you have. We'll get into that in a little later, but basically that's the lowest the fees are going to be. If you're a larger company, the fees can be higher. So drafting a claim in particular, a utility application claim has 3 main parts. The preamble is just that introduction right off the bat. The transitional phrase is comprising or consisting of. Comprising is an open phrase. Consisting of is closed. And then there's the body of it. And this is just going to get into all the different elements that you're going to claim and get your protection of. So with the transitional phrases, comprising is much more common. It's considered open-ended. It doesn't exclude additional or unrecited elements. Consisting of is the opposite. So consisting of is closed-end statement. Basically, it's going to limit you to just those elements. A common example I see is a device could say the toy comprises metal. Now, this would permit the invention to have other things such as like plastic or anything in addition to the metal. However, if the claim said the toy consists of metal, this would mean that the toy has to only contain metal. It can't have any other plastic components. It can't have any rubber components or anything like that. So consisting limits you to just those next recited aspects. Here's some do's for us on this. So again, everything comes back to being very specific. We want to particularly point out and distinctly claim the subject matter of your invention. Consider drafting the claims first. Again, that gives us that good outline. It's a good balance to be going back and forth on that. So you could write your claims first and then go from the specification and then back and forth. You want to definitely review both, make any corrections and additions so that the terms are consistent. If we call something a device, we want to keep calling it a device. We don't want to switch to an invention. If we call it a strut, we don't want to switch to calling it a rod or a stiffener or anything like that. We want to keep calling it the same terminology throughout. And another good thing to do is look at other patents that are issued in that same field. See what terminology they're using, what phrasing they're using. So it's a good starting point for you to be consistent with what's readily accepted, what's just adopted, and what's known. It's sure each term that we do end up using has that antecedent basis back to the specification. And think about what protections that you're looking for your invention. Is the big thing in your area the material? Is it how it's used? All of those, we really want to get into the claims, because if not, you're going to get protection over something that probably isn't enforceable, or maybe not even readily licensable or usable. So you really want to have that in mind when we're drafting the claims. Things to avoid: don't use claims that are covering two categories. Again, this is when we put the device and the method of using it in the same claim. You can claim both of those, but they need to separate it out into two different claims. Don't use terms inconsistently between claims. Here's a better example. If you want visor, visor member, visor section, removable visor portion, all of those, they're addressing the same component of the invention. Pick one and go with it throughout. Do not write multiple sentence claims. Each claim is just a single sentence. It can be a run-on, and they often are, but it needs to be a single sentence. It's best to not refer back to only a portion of the parent claim. So basically, if you want to refer to just a subcomponent, you don't want to say the subcomponent of claim one. You want to say the device of claim one, wherein the subcomponent does this. Also, don't replace elements. That's creating contradictions. You can say that it has A or B, but don't say initially it has A and then later say, no, it has B instead of A. You want to say them an alternative, not replacing them. They're all just going to build on each other. So your independent claim is going to be your broadest. And as you go down through the dependent claims, they're going to start to get more refined and narrower. So I think this is going to be probably some of the most important aspects of my presentation today, all the resources we have for you guys. So these are, we'll get you guys all these slides, but the really things I want to point out to you guys is how much support we have. We got all kinds of inventor helplines. We got search guides. People like me and my outreach group, we do lots of these presentations. I recommend everyone go to uspto.gov. In the upper right corner, you'll see About Us. And under on the right side in the blue banner, you'll see Events. There's a full list of all kinds of upcoming events. We team up with people all the time to put these presentations on. And we have tons of other resources here to link people. Like we have the micro entity status there, which is a great one to look into because it can reduce your fees. We have the pro bono support. We have pro se assistance. We have law school clinic programs. So there's tons and tons of resources for you guys. So the Office of Innovation and Development, this is great for pro se's, first times filers, anyone like that. These are people that either often are retired examiners or people that are just made long careers out of it and here to help you. They will personally answer the phone. They're there to give you support. They will answer the tricky questions. They'll answer the simple questions that just had you stuck to get you back on track. We also have, again, tons of resources for you guys that will help you out at any point in your process. If you're just thinking of the idea, if you're looking for funding, if you're looking for being connected with investors, if you're looking for how to talk to investors, we have all sorts of resources for you guys. And then I just want to say thanks and kind of open it up if you guys would like to talk and have any specific questions for me. Here we have the links to some of our resources. Again, I'm from the Eastern Regional Outreach Office, and we're here to help you guys. We're really focused on kind of demystifying things and answering any questions we can. All right. So Edgar, did we have, I'm gonna see, did we have any questions in the chat that still need answering?
No, Chris, we don't have questions so far.
Okay. All right, yeah, if anyone has any questions, I'm more than happy to answer.
I don't know if, Chris, you may like to also share. We have also resources for the Spanish language, Hispanic and Latino community. And since the Virgin Islands is very close to Puerto Rico, if you guys have any questions, we also have the same resources that Chris just shared in the Spanish language. So that's an additional resource that Eastern Regional Outreach Office provides. Yeah,
we're really trying to accommodate and do anything we can to help you guys. If there's topics you'd like us to explain more, whether English, Spanish, or any other language, we'll find someone to get the help and get you guys the support we can.
Thank you.
Okay, Edward, Edgar, I'm sorry. There are a couple of questions in the Q&A. If you could, well, if you could address the one about a patent being renewed. For the people that are attending this webinar, we will send out a brief survey after this webinar. We'll ask you to complete that and return it to complete that for us. And you can request that you can also request a copy of the presentation at training@vispdc.org. That's training@vispdc.org if you want a copy of the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. I don't know, Chris, we have a specific patent number, and I think we can, offer specifics about a patent, whether it's going to be renewed or not. It's something that should be taken care of, in due diligence and by the proper examiner. I would like just to see how we could better understand the question. Are you the owner of that patent, or is it something that you have searched and found?
The other thing to remember is, so patents, once your patent's issued, you will have some maintenance fees for the process. So if you own it, you'll have that. Otherwise, a patent, you can file continuations to protect other things, but your patent term is the 20 years. There's no adding extra term limits or any time to that. Trademarks, copyrights, and those have longer terms and different things that can be adjusted. However, a patent is the 20 years, and once that 20 years is up, that particular patentable subject matter that's in those claims, that's going to basically go to the public. So there is no formal renewing. I'm not sure if we're referring to something else, but otherwise, the way to think about patents is once they expire, that particular patent is expired. If they file additional patents, those can protect and get other terms. But again, your base patent will expire at some point.
We have another question, and it states, can the current owner of a patent make a slightly different patent to cover some of these same claims?
Yeah, so when you get into those, that's a really common thing. People often think of patent as just getting one and I got my patent and I accomplished my goal. But patents should be thought of as part of your intellectual property portfolio. You want to think about your copyrights, your trademarks, your trade secrets, and your patents. And your patents, like we mentioned earlier, you really want to carve out a whole area for yourself. You don't necessarily just want one specific thing. And the way to do that is having additional applications, describing it differently, going after different aspects, going after methods. You can have a design patent, which is more ornamental and describing that with a figure. So yeah, you're not limited to one by any means. In my area, in the medical area, they go after a whole, they kind of really carve out their own section. They say, okay, this is our core device to get the first patent. And then they say, okay, this is it with this type of shape. This is it with this type of material. This is it combined with this thing. So you're kind of building a whole atmosphere around your core invention.
I don't think we have any more questions, but please feel free to put them in the chat, or I don't know if we have the ability for them to ask verbally. That's also an option sometimes.
Yeah, and the other thing is if you guys have questions that are a little bit more sensitive or too specific, please reach out to our outreach office. The emails and different things are in the slides, and we can always set up a meeting with you. The SBDC, I know they can work with you guys on that. So There's lots of things here. Don't hesitate to get that help, to get those resources. We're all here to help you guys.
Absolutely.
Yes, so if you wish to ask a question directly, you do have the ability to unmute your mic, but we're going to ask you to raise your hand so we can call on you directly, and then you can ask your question.
So I see we have one here for a chemical product. Yeah, a chemical product is going to be substantially similar. There's a little bit different when you're talking about the chemical formula and things like that in the claims, but substantially similar process, and it's still going to be a utility pin.
We're still waiting. If there's any more questions, please feel free to.
Give you guys a couple more minutes if anyone thinks anything else, or you'd like me to go back and kind of clarify anything. I'm happy to do so.
So I can fill up the space. So I just want everyone to remember that the VI SBDC has so much more in store for you as VI small businesses. You can visit our website at www.vispdc.org. Download the VI SBDC app on your mobile device from the appropriate app store. Like and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Google Business, and subscribe to the VI SBDC YouTube channel for new uploads. While we wait for your questions, I just want to highlight the remainder of the series. So on May 17th, we have copyright basics and considerations for entrepreneurs. That's going to be at 11 a.m. again. On May 24th, we have the USPTO resources for inventors, innovators, and entrepreneurs. So that's going to be May 24th at 11 a.m. On the 31st, we have small business owners learn how to contract with the USPTO. I don't see any more questions at this time. Do you guys see any in your chat?
Nope.
Okay, so I guess I can take this time to thank you, Chris and Edgar, for the opportunity for us to connect with you and benefit from these resources all the way in the USVI. And I see in the comments, persons are saying thank you so much. So everyone, just a friendly reminder that as we end this webinar, I'm going to send you a survey, and attached would be the presentation from today's webinar. Thank you so much for attending on behalf of the entire VI SBDC network. Everyone, enjoy your day.
And thank you guys.
No problem. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Take care.